ESNY.
Well, folks, we made it. Week 1 coming up here on the Jets All the Way podcast, brought to you by Elite Sports New York. I'm Jeff Magliacetti. He's Rob Sabo, and we're here to break down the Jets' new roster as they head into Week 1 against the Buffalo Bills. Rob, officially, happy football.
Yes, we are 4 days away now, 3 days away. I mean, I'm so excited I could hardly contain myself.
Of course, we are 6 days away from the Jets taking on the Buffalo Bills in what will bookend the season. Jets taking on Buffalo in weeks 1 and 17. The latter matchup, of course, coming in Orchard Park again at New Era Field. So with that, we take a look at this roster right now for the New York Jets. The Jets named their original 53-man roster on Saturday afternoon, and then made a couple moves on the waiver wire on Sunday. And Rob, I think we've discussed this on the program several times before. It is just absolutely great to see that Joe Douglas is fulfilling a promise he insisted on that he made in his introductory press conference to go to the waiver wire. It seems like you and I have Christmas morning. He has the waiver wire.
Yeah, and not only that, he understands what a football player should be.
Oh, yeah.
Unlike previous regimes, previous general managers, he understands talent is only one fraction of the overall piece of pie. Mm-hmm. And it's evident with where Jachai Polite is right now.
That's right.
He understands talent is such a fraction. When he was asked during the combine, hey, Jachai, by a reporter, what do you need to do to improve when you look at yourself on film? And Jachai Polite responds, I've never really watched myself on film. That statement is enough to say no thanks, no matter where you get him in the draft. And it showed. What was it, over $100,000 worth of fines?
Yeah, you had a single summer. You have to try to do that. In the words of Ron Burgundy, I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
Mm-hmm. It's so skillful. How do you do that? You can't accidentally rack up 100,000. That's you got to put some effort into that. You got to have a calendar, organize your fines. That's ridiculous.
In a single summer, no less.
It's incredible. So, talent is only a piece of the pie, whereas the previous general manager looked at talent as kind of 100% of the overall package. And it's just not the way to build a football team.
Adam Gase speaking today at Jets practice. No longer camp. We're in the practice stage now. Another sign we are oh so close to football. Adam Gase spoke on the Jachai Polite release. He said on why he didn't give Polite a year to develop. He said, quote, I just think the body of work of kind of everything that we've done since we've been here, we felt like Kyle Phillips really earned his spot. That's what we're about. We're about the guys that do it the way we need it done. Best guys are going to make the team. So strong words from Joe Douglas in that release, and strong words from Gase today at Jets practice. And Rob, I believe you were pretty high on Kyle Phillips, actually.
Yeah, I liked Phillips. Today both of us weren't at the facility, but the transcript came over. I like Phillips a lot. He's one of those tweeners with Henry Anderson and Kafusi. I hope I'm saying that right. In which they're actually interior linemen, but they play a lot of edge in the Greg Williams system. That's why on the 53-man roster, they have how many interior linemen? 9, 10?
Yeah.
8, 9, 10, something along those lines, because a few of those guys can also play edge.
Right.
Also today at Florham Park, Gase kind of gave a sly message to wrap up Polite that there was division with that pick between him and McCagnon in the third round with Polite.
And that makes it all the more interesting that they made the McCagnon move so late in the offseason. It adds another fold to the Douglas-Gase relationship. And it's just good to see that those guys appear to be on the same page at this point. And, once again, it's great to see Douglas being so active. Everyone else is playing, I don't know, Tecmo Bowl out there. It feels like Douglas is playing Madden with all the roster moves that he's making out there. He was very, 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 very active during the offseason. And he did a solid job in the sense that, he brought in guys that would be familiar to Gase and to some of the other coaches. A notable example was the released Stephen Anthony, in that he worked with Joe Vitt, the linebackers coach over in New Orleans when he was a first-round pick of the Saints, and worked with Gase when he spent some time with the Dolphins last season. So very interesting to see Douglas work to these guys' strengths. And another practice squad addition that I found most interesting was reported first by ESPN's Field Yates, has yet to be confirmed by the team, but when they picked up Josh Adams in free agency, Adams had 511 rushing yards last year as a member of the Eagles, of course, Douglas's old stomping grounds. And that tally ranked good for 10th in amongst all rookies last season and led the Philadelphia Eagles team. So it's great to see that Gase and Douglas appear to be on the same page with these guys. They're complimenting each other. They're helping each other out. And, it's just strong to see after McCagnon's thoughts of last year when he was saying that he wouldn't want to hire a coach that demanded total control. And we forget so easily that Gase is not Douglas's hire. He's not Douglas's guy. So it's great to see that they had the same kind of synergy.
Yeah, I keep slapping myself because everything the Jets are doing is tremendous, is 100% tremendous, where they're taking the direction. And I keep slapping myself because I can't remember a point in time when this has been the case, other than Mangini and Tannenbaum's first year, really, and Parcells in 97.
Right.
I can't think of a more perfect direction that they've taken it. And more important than direction, hiring the right football people to take them in that direction.
Yeah, you're just waiting for the other shoe to drop, it feels like at this point. Just waiting for reality to set in. But seems like Douglas knows what he's doing out there. Of course, that we will see if that holds true as we move to on-field activities. Now, something that was interesting to me, being a former special teamer and all, and we actually have some breaking news. The Jets have confirmed right now they have actually brought back Albert McClellan and have placed Brett Cavalli on IR. So we were just talking about before we went on here. So just making some transactions, and they also added two more names to the practice squad. The aforementioned Josh Adams and tight end Ian Bunting. They joined that group, a group that will be 11 men rather than the standard 10, with the addition of international free agent Valentine Holmes. Now, taking a look at that roster, I was mentioning before we got this breaking news in, how I was very intrigued by the kicker situation this year, in that they let Jason Myers walk to Seattle, and they tried to fill in the void with Chandler Catanzaro. Then they tried to fill in the void with Taylor Bertolette when Catanzaro retired. And now the new name is Corey Vedvik, who steps in from Minnesota. And Minnesota, I'm not sure what sort of podiatry deity they ticked off down there. They've never had the best luck with kickers down there. Everyone knows the stories of Gary Anderson and Blair Walsh. Even Dan Bailey stepped in there and couldn't. A god amongst accuracy amongst NFL kickers. He couldn't even solve the kicking problems they had down there. Vedvik came in, was a bit of a stud with the Baltimore Ravens in the sense that, he did a great job as Justin Tucker's understudy over there, a bit of a summer camp leg for him, coming in, saving Tucker's leg for the regular season. And then he went to Minnesota and only went 1 of 4 on field goals right now. So, and the one make was from 27 yards out. So this got me thinking a little bit, Rob. Why not to capitalize on something to, not take advantage of in a way, but to, bring somebody in? Why not Carly Lloyd, if you know what I mean?
Oh, man. I don't know.
It's an interesting situation with Carly Lloyd in that she's out there. She kicked a 55-yard field goal. The video went viral. She was over at an Eagles-Ravens joint practice, 55 yards out. And look, I got to see Carly Lloyd on NFL Total Access on NFL Network recently, and she seemed more than willing to put herself in a way to the rigorous strains that football has, and she seems to understand the risks and is ready to go. She flat out admitted that she wants to do this, and if it was a quarterback or running back type of spot, it probably wouldn't go well. But this is a challenge that she probably would want to see and probably would have taken had the United States women's soccer team not had a game on Thursday night's week 4 preseason games. They were actually over in Philadelphia, and ironically, she scored the third goal in a 4-0 win in an international friendly over Portugal. So that's something I found very interesting, and something that, it would be such an ideal spot for her, to come in, because she would not be a gimmick signing. She would fulfill a need that the Jets desperately need. And what's interesting for the Jets, you have hope for this offense, but this offense has so much sputter potential, I feel. Like, they're there, but they're not fully there. There's no doubt they've improved this offseason, but there's a sense that, they could be settling for a lot of field goals this year. And Myers was there to pick up the slack for them last season. His 36 attempts were good for a 4th-place tie in the league, while his extra point attempts were good for a 12th place tie. A bunch of guys in front of him in the other 12th placers. So I think you really need to solidify his kicking position. Carly Lloyd, maybe that's a discussion for another day. So the Jets really have to hope that they have their man in Corey Vedvik here.
Well, a lot of things. Let's deep into this Carly Lloyd. Let's dig into this Carly Lloyd thing.
Go.
What's the latest news? Who invited her? What teams has she visited with?
Well, she hasn't. That information hasn't become public yet in a way, but she has said she got some, quote, serious offers from NFL teams. So that's very telling, I think. And
okay, well, here's the way I look at it.
Go ahead.
In terms of August, if you're an owner, meeting with her, having her come in, there's no losing there. That's a publicity situation. That's great for the headlines. That's a realistic step.
Right.
The next step is where we get into the real nitty gritty. Is she good? We have to see video of her doing it in high pressure situations. Sometimes I think we think these guys it's easy to do this.
Right.
To have someone, it doesn't matter, male, female, whoever, right, someone come in and actually outperform a fringe, NFL or even D1 kicker.
No, it's a good
That
point.
is such a tough deal. That is such a tough situation.
It is kind of a shame in her case that the preseason is over, that this situation arose so late in the preseason that by the time they were ready to, get her on the field potentially, everything was wrapping up, and scheduling played a bit of a villain as well. So it's a bit of a shame in that regard, I'll fully admit.
Yeah, if I'm an owner, I'll call her up. I'll get it leaked out there that we're interested in talking to her and having her come in. But there's no losing there. That's a great publicity stunt. I wonder if she met with teams or they just sent interest her way. Did she actually have a tryout? That's what I'm wondering.
I don't believe there was an official tryout just yet. The Jets actually did bring in some veterans. We talked about it earlier this offseason, I believe. Cody Parkey and Blair Walsh were some of the veterans they brought in. And, you talk about the publicity type thing. The Jets do have to avoid, gimmick type signings. And I don't think this would be a gimmick type signing. It would, again, fulfill a need they desperately have. They need to have the safety net of a reliable kicker this year. And, this would not be like, for example, the Tim Tebow situation where, they brought him in, and the last thing that team needed was a quarterback controversy with Mark Sanchez. And lo and behold, it happened, and there was disagreements on how Tebow would be used. And next thing you know, it turned into a complete failure and and turned the Jets into a total laughingstock. And they really still haven't recovered from that rut that began all those years ago. So I believe we're about year 7 of that at this point. So I'm interested to see where the Carly Lloyd situation goes, but I think we could both agree that the Jets need to resolve this kicking situation now, especially because they let Myers walk.
Yeah, they need to resolve it. Yeah, the Carly Lloyd, I'm a hard no against it unless I see her actually somewhat show that she could. The one video we saw, she was taking 5 steps before the field goal. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying she can't do it, but the questions are so great at the moment. That's the thing I'm worried about. Vedvik, he's from Norway. I see here. I did not know that. Went to Marshall. I mean, hey, we'll see. It's going to be a weekly process with this kicking situation.
I mean, it's unfortunate it had to come to this, and again, regarding Lloyd, it's just a shame that this arose so late. So she couldn't get an in-game opportunity, but we'll see where that situation heads, and then we'll definitely keep you updated on it. But at this point, the Jets would be, in terms of destinations it would be a solid option, no doubt.
Yeah, in terms of need at the position, the Jets are right up there at the top of the list, no doubt.
It's probably the Jets are 1 and Chicago is 1A with what they're doing down there. Eddie Pinheiro won the starting job down there. He has yet to kick in an NFL regular season game, but we will keep assessing that situation as the year goes on. So, looking at the rest of this 53-man roster, are there any surprises that stood out to you, Rob?
I'm surprised at how heavy they are on the offensive line. We just heard that Quali is now gone IR, so that makes more sense. They kept 9 instead of 10. Mm-hmm. I'm surprised they only kept 3 tight ends instead of 4. Gase likes 13 personnel. He likes using 3 tight end sets. Mm-hmm. So if one gets injured, one is unavailable. There goes that. They only have 3 on the roster. I'm surprised they only kept 5 receivers. I am shocked, actually. I would assume they would have kept 6, even if they signed Berrios, keeping Dortch. Mm. And I am shocked Dortch is no longer on the 53.
Agree 100%. Because I felt Dortch really established himself this preseason. He scored a touchdown in the Jets' first preseason game via receiving. His punt return yardage, in terms of total yards, I believe that ranked 10th amongst all returners in the NFL this preseason. So he really made a name for himself, established himself for a bit. And I'm surprised that they brought him back on this roster only to dispose of him so quick. And it'd be great to see him return on the practice squad, but I think some other team is going to scoop him up real quick. And it's really nothing on Dortch. He really came back. He really came in here as an undrafted free agent, did everything that was asked of him. And it's just, that's football. It's nothing personal, just business.
Yeah, and with the receivers on top of that, Bellamy is one of the 5 receivers. He's a special teamer.
Yeah,
you don't really want to use him on offense too much. So it really thin there. Expect that to change eventually. I'm not shocked at McGuire. I think we talked about it in July. When I got there in July, I saw McGuire. He looked a little heavier. He's the worst in the receiving game of all the backs, and Gase doesn't like that. So not surprised about McGuire. What else? I mean, pretty much they're heavy on the interior, light on the outside. Maybe that's a nod to Joe Douglas. I don't know, but we'll see. We'll see how it unfolds.
They seem to be a bit of heavy on safeties too. Of course, veteran Doug Middleton was released in the second smaller second wave of cuts on Sunday. So interesting to see that they're really prepping the secondary this year. And you take a look at who was available. I'm really shocked the Jets, for example, didn't go after some names at linebacker. 2 names I'm shocked that didn't come up on the waiver wire were Brandon Marshall, the linebacker, not the done receiver, Brandon Marshall and Malcolm Smith, because those guys would come in, they could give you the experience, they could bring the mentorship, and they still have some left in the tank, I feel. So I'm really shocked the Jets didn't try to go out there and add one of them. I am interested to see John Franklin Myers, a defensive end who came in from the LA Rams. So that's going to be an interesting subplot moving forward. And if you want to talk about a good omen, John Franklin Myers in his last game, Super Bowl 53, he had a sack and forced fumble on none other than Tom Brady. So if you're a Jets fan, hard to see much of a better omen right there, don't you think?
Yeah, you said that to me. It got me a little excited. I forgot about his sack in the Super Bowl.
I mean, I think we forgot a lot about that Super Bowl, let's be honest. But
and it's a shame, too, because the Rams had him right where they needed him. They were playing tremendous defense early on, but just Wade Phillips just didn't keep it going. He tried to get too cute, and it opened everything up.
And the offense or anything, so.
Yeah, but he fits in. I'm trying to see how big he is. Is he big like Leonard and Quinnen, or is he more of a smaller interior guy?
Franklin Myers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Trying to think that he's spent several years in this. So he is 6'4", 288.
Okay, so he's, like we discussed before, I think, off air, he's one of those tweeners again. When you look at the defensive line, you got 2 different types. You got the defensive tackle, who's 300-plus pounds, and then you got the tweener, who plays some edge, plays some inside, does both. And that consists of Henry Anderson, John Franklin Myers, Bronson Kofosi, and one more guy I'm not thinking of. Kyle Phillips. So when you look at those interior guys, think of those 4 as the tweeners and the other guys as the big boys who never go to the outside.
Looking at this roster, interesting to see. No further surprises from my end. I gotta say, good job keeping two quarterbacks on this roster. Trevor Siemian, but far and away, was the best of the backup quarterbacks. The Sam Darnold understudies, the ideal backup over there. I am a little surprised they let go of the FIU pairing at linebacker of James Burgess and Anthony Wint. That was a little bit of a shock to me. So other than that, really no surprises from this roster. And this is the one that will face off against the Buffalo Bills on Sunday, MetLife Stadium, 1 p.m. Rob, what are your initial thoughts going into this one?
McCoy to Kansas City, which screws my fantasy team because I have Darwin Thompson. That's my first thought. But Jets Bills, I forgot who said it to me. Maybe it was on the radio. Costello said to Benigno said it to Costello. What are the odds Andre Roberts takes the opening kickoff for a touchdown? That's the way a Joe Benigno Jets fan would think. But no, if the Jets want to be a serious team, they have to win this game. There's no question about it. And look for Gase early to dial it up and take what the defense gives them, and look to see if Darnold has complete freedom at the line of scrimmage. If he does, get ready for a good offensive season.
Yes, absolutely. And week one against Buffalo, it's funny you mentioned that. Mentioned kick returns and the Buffalo Bills. I'm reminded of the Jets opener in 2002. Drew Bledsoe's first game as a Bill. Chad Morton taking back the overtime kickoff back for a touchdown after Bledsoe led a crazy comeback for Buffalo up in Orchard Park. So Chad Morton, one of two touchdowns he had in that game. So those are some great, interesting special teams memories. And you look at the Jets right now. Of course, last year at MetLife Stadium, the Bills ran them out of the building with Matt Barkley at quarterback. So interesting to see if they'll be motivated by revenge. I'm sure that's still on their minds. I guarantee you Jamal Adams will bring that up at some point this week. So will be interesting to see. I remember the last time when they faced off against the Bills in December last year, of course, that big win, which I thought was well worth the lost draft position. Very good job by them. It got Darnold on track, set him up for a big finish, yada, yada, yada. And Jamal Adams said leading into that matchup that revenge was on his mind. He remembered what the Bills did to them in that 41-10 obliteration. So I'm interested to see how much the Jets remember that. I think Adams will be leading the charge for that. There's going to be no better way to open this era than with a Jets victory. But then again, they have to come out strong. They can't come out sloppy. They have to do the little things right in this game. So eager to see what comes out of it. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. It's going to be two young quarterbacks going at it. The Jets Bills rivalry. Guess what? It means something again. So I'm really looking forward to this one. I'm gonna predict something. It's gonna be somewhat low scoring. You might see these offenses sputter a bit, especially with the Jets still trying to get used to some of the newcomers in their roster in the form of Le'Veon Bell, in the form of Ryan Khalil. But right now, I'm thinking the Jets are gonna take this one. I'm gonna say it goes by a 17-16 final.
I remember that Morton game like it was yesterday. A couple of matchups to look at. Brian Poole will be tested right away with Cole Beasley.
Yes.
Cole Beasley may be a number 3 receiver on this depth chart, but he will lead the team in targets. I think over Zay Jones, John Brown. I think he's their number 1 wideout. And I think that favors the Jets because Brian Poole at nickel is a better situation than Tremaine as the number 1 or Doyle Roberts as the number 2. Mm-hmm. So that's a good matchup for the Jets in considering their dire need for corners.
Right.
Offensively, Ryan Khalil against the rookie, Ed Oliver, right in the middle there. Or Star Latulier, who's been around for a while now, the Carolina high draft pick. Offensive line versus that big defensive front. Brian Poole against Beasley. Can they generate a pass rush against this O-line? They got the rookie, Cody Ford, starting at right tackle. How often is Greg Williams going to spy Josh Allen? Josh Allen is a running fool. How often is he going to use Mosley or Hewitt or neither and let Adams kind of try to clean it up if Josh Allen runs? Right. So those are a few matchups to keep an eye on. I'll go, if we're going to go predictions, I'll go, I expect the line and Le'Veon to struggle early on. So expect the pass, heavy dose of 3-step passing early on, Le'Veon included. I'll go 27-14 Jets.
Okay, fair enough. I like it. We're looking forward to it. Can't wait to see it. Football is back, people. Thank you for tuning in to the Jets All the Way podcast. We'll be back every week, previewing every game, recapping everything that's going on. And we want to get you, the fans, involved at some point this year. So feel free to send us in your questions. We'll answer them on the show. We're really looking forward to having you guys on. So we'll definitely get you guys more involved this year as the season moves forward. For Robbie Sabo, I'm Jeff Maglicetti. Thanks for listening, folks.